Coming up next, we have another presentation that is by Kendi Nderitu. She's the country manager, Microsoft Kenya, and she will be dwelling on a topic, securing today's remote working environment, and she'll be coming to us virtually. Karibu Kendi.
Good morning. Nice to join you from Nairobi. I couldn't be with you in Mombasa this time, but hopefully soon we will meet in person. Just allow me to pull up my presentation. And as I do that, Vincent, it was amazing listening to you. And I also realized that you don't have a lot of data on Microsoft. So I invite you to work with us to get the data on Microsoft and what we're doing in the region where cloud is concerned. Just a moment. Okay. So what's been very interesting in the last, I would say, 2 years, 1.5 years, is that we've actually had to blend the physical and the remote. This is seen a lot because even as we speak now, even as I was being introduced, we're just told that we have people who are joining us virtually, and I'm able to come to you virtually. And if I remember the last event we had, the CIO East Africa, then now CIO Africa, it was actually all physical, right? And yes, because of the things that have happened in the last 1.5 years, we are able to then blend it. And what that then does that mean from working remotely? Because we're seeing as much as we're now open, as in the economy is open, we encourage to go to the offices, like speaking to you from my office. But yes, there's still the thing that not all of us will go back to the office physically. We still have maybe shifts that we're working with, or a new way where hybrid working is encouraged. So then we continue to look at the securing remote work environment, and that's what we're going to look at this morning. And I understand that I stand between you and your break, so I'll be brief and hopefully relevant and helpful for you. As we said, COVID-19 brought unexpected IT challenges, and some of this, if you can look at them, we had a bit more bad actors exploiting just the whole period of it. We're seeing a lot more vulnerabilities. We had scalability issues for the VPN because it was almost abrupt. It wasn't planned. We had such a spike in the need for remote access to applications, challenges of onboarding and managing new and personal devices, because for organizations, and I know for our continent especially, it was still normal and it still is normal to have desktops, which are then not too mobile if people are needing to work from home. But yet people are then encouraged to use their gadgets, whether it's their laptops or tablets, to access company resources. So we had challenges of onboarding and managing new and personal devices from that aspect. And of course, the difficulty in rolling out security controls and supporting the transition. So in terms of building and enabling remote workforce, in the trivial challenges, in the best of times, it becomes even in the best of times, it becomes a very big challenge. And it can seem especially daunting in periods like now the COVID season, which we've somehow been able to go over. But many organizations recognize that need to transition their workforce. And it's knowing that even as you listen, you're either our partners, most of you are either our partners or our customers as Microsoft. And we've seen how we've been able to work with you to just enable your teams to be able to be productive in all of this environment. So if we look at securing, again, your remote workforce, we see that there are different aspects that need to be considered. And most of them, when we look at it as Microsoft, when we look at what is the commitment that you need for your success, when it comes to securing your remote work, it means about working with you across you who are here and other organizations across the globe. And we've identified 3 key areas where you need to focus on. And these areas, if you look at them, they're seen on your screen. One is enable the remote access to apps, managing the devices and apps, and then protecting the corporate resources. And we'll just see, going deeper, what this means in each aspect. So if we look at enabling remote access to applications, this is about securing access to all your apps from anywhere, so that, and I had this in the last year, I have friends who actually moved and were working from Diani, which is similar to the environment that most of you are listening from. And they could do this because anyway, it doesn't matter where it is that you're seated. So you find users have a secure access to all of their applications, including if it's SaaS software as a service, installed applications and on-premise applications. From the previous presentation, we saw the array of it or the variety of it, but then being able to have an experience that is seamless wherever your users are logging in from. And that is the part of enabling remote access to applications. The breadth of the apps for secure access would have easily been discoverable and launched from a central location so that you can have that consistent experience. The ease of application of access and a collaboration within those apps across your workforces, specifically that they are secure and extending to your contractors and your partners. Again, it's a journey then you have to take. So first you start with the employees who are working for you, then you go to third parties because most of you don't work in isolation, you work through partners, then are you able to extend that connectivity to your partners? And then having all this remote access and instances being strong and secure. Again, we cannot speak enough of how much the environment needs to be secure. We cannot overemphasize that. So when we look at in that sense, then we go to the next bit, which is managing devices and applications. And in terms of managing devices and applications, it's understanding that it's a critical aspect of securing your remote workforce. So if we look deeper at how your devices and applications are effectively managed in this new era. So if we were to look at that, what does that mean? It's managing remote personnel and corporate devices and applications. Going deeper into that, it's having, when the transition has been very rapid, and then there's remote working during this period and going forward, there's little time to again respond to that. So being able to quickly learn that many workers would use a mix of the corporate and the personal devices, which was encouraged, so at least the business can continue. But then as you hear this, the additional pressure to actually enable this remote productivity would then be added on to the corporate. Then what we are hearing from organizations is that there was a struggle towards that shift of going remote, now sort of settled, now sort of understood, but then how much further can you extend it? So if you look at those devices, do you have MDM in them? Are you able to see them? Is your data as a company secure when it's out there? All of these needs could be easily done, again, with the right technology partnership and their variety. And we can look at this even as we go on. So again, when you look at it in terms of protecting corporate resources, which we've alluded to briefly, because one of the things, and I saw this, it was an organization that was actually trying to do some PR damage control. And you find their employees were working from the same space. In that space, you see you have conversations, then sensitive information is shared, or machines are left open. So while it was still advised, even in the office, in the physical setting, that you don't leave your machines open, you can imagine at home, the person doesn't have the code of, what would I say, privacy, or the code of ethics that is prescribed to the corporate that they work for. But when you have those resources out there and being accessed from out there, how do you then manage them? How do you ensure that they're not falling in the wrong hands, or that they're not being broadcast openly outside? So with almost everyone being there, then the surface area to protect becomes much wider and, of course, more complicated. Protecting our data, apps, and endpoints against stress and security risks also becomes permanent. We know that as much as we have Wi-Fi in our homes, if you are a target, it's an easier penetration base. So whereas when you give access to your resources to people who are outside, then what does that mean? And by outside, I mean physically outside, but then inside from your network perspective. So then if we look at protecting those corporate resources, then you protect your data while your remote workers collaborate. You secure data in your cloud applications. You keep your people safe from phishing and malware attacks. And then you secure your endpoints. So that's why it becomes very important to then look at the gadgets with which your teams or your people, your partners or your ecosystem is accessing your resources. And as you look at that even deeper, as you see what that means and you dig deep into it, then we see we've identified, as we work with the different organizations around the world, we've seen a trusted path as to how you can actually ensure that you're enabling a secure working environment for your people. And if you look at this from your screen, you will see there is what we have as phase one. And in phase one, it's about enable access. And in enabling access, you connect. If we look at the enabling access, you focus on connecting your on-premise infrastructure to the cloud. Earlier, all through these conversations, we've spoken about hybrid. So seeing how can you take advantage of what is on-premise and what you can utilize on the cloud, then connecting all up to Azure Active Directory. And I say this knowing that a majority of you are customers of Microsoft from a productivity perspective. So enabling the Active Directory to enable single sign-on. Then when it comes now to managing devices, at least securely enable, bring your own device, be it where you have policies in place. If you didn't have them, continue to farm them up. Then remotely provision and deploy new devices. So you have a place and you know how to, you can continuously provision this and deploy this. Then when it comes to protecting the resources, turn on your team data loss prevention policies, enable safe links and safe attachments. Again, if you look at this as phase one, at least you're in the first phase. If you're able to transition to that, you are in first instance, you're able to at least help your people to work remotely and in the first level of security. Then after that, you graduate and you get to phase two. So when you go to phase two, you turn on multi-factor authentication with conditional access. Conditional access means you're able to analyze and say, this group of people, this is the kind of access they have, the kind of controls they can do when they're not in their physical premises. This is what that would mean. Then you, again, on the enabling access, you use Azure AD, securing hybrid access to Azure VPN to enable access to on-premise web applications. And then when you look at the managing devices, and all of this happen concurrently, that is the enabling access, the managing devices, the protecting resources. So when you look at managing devices, you enforce access policy on unmanaged devices with Intune. You deploy and manage virtual desktop. When I started out, I did mention most of the companies in Africa, we still maintain the desktop buying bit where we didn't give our employees laptops, most of them. There are those who are desktop. And so if you have desktop, how are you then quickly able to transition? And this, I know some of our customers are things we did very seamlessly to just enable. Like if those who have the big call centers who are relying on our technology, they were quickly able to transition, even in the period, to have their teams work remotely as much as they use desktop. But using virtual desktop, they are able to transition and work remotely. And some organizations actually went fully virtual, and there's no way they're going back to having a very physical data center, right? Then you find in the protecting resources, there's the discover all cloud applications and services used in your organizations. Then you onboard machines to Microsoft Defender. So all of this, and this bit, the thing is, when you get our software, usually it's packaged, and all you need to do is activate. And we'll see how it is that you're able to do that. So when you look at phase three, it's about then on the enabling access, you extend access with Azure Active Directory. You now enable the business-to-business collaboration. So if you have partners who you work with to roll out or to cover your markets, that means you can enable them. If you have dealers who you work with, then the same way you can give them access to your resources, because at that point the base has already been set. And then you move to enabling risk-based conditional access. So again, you look at that, you're like, what risk is there? What access can I provide? How far can it go? And all of this, because it's structured, it can be monitored, and you can then have it. In terms of managed devices, you use conditional access to enroll devices in MDM. Then that is because you're bringing your own devices. You're working within a box or a container in the personal device, so that you have full control over that. Because again, your employees have a right over their own devices. So MDM is the best way you do it. And then you proactively manage updates, patching, and policies. It means that with the devices, if an upgrade or an update has not been done by the user, you can actually pick it up. And you can, if it's a critical update, it's a critical patch, and this is a personal device. As long as they don't do it, then you block access to your resources, but you alert them that you are at risk of being attacked, and this is why. So you proactively are able to do that and also implement policies without really interfering with their privacy or their personal space. Then on the last bit is protecting resources, where you use recommended configuration analyzer to review the ACP configurations, that is advanced threat prevention. So you look at if it's ransomware, are you able to look at this and catch it early? If it's malware, are you able to see patterns? Then implement the application protection policies, and all of this you're able to do. So what we're saying is, in summary, to enable a secure working, remote working environment, it is usually a phased approach. Some are able, as agile or as ready enough to do everything at once. But our recommendation is always to look at the phase 1, the phase 2, the phase 3, and this can be as long or as short as you desire to have it, or as updated as your devices are, or as switched on as your team that you're relying on are. So, even as I conclude, some of the ways that we do this as Microsoft, we're able to work with you, especially if you're already engaging with us, or even not, and you want to go through this path. We get remote deployment help with Fast Track. Fast Track is what is an investment we make to our customers to ensure that you're using the most of the resources that you have, of what you've bought, of the acquisitions that you have. So we work with you. Fast Track is also one of the ways we work through our partners. We understand that as Microsoft, while we are a large multinational, in order to be deep in the countries and in the markets that we operate, we understand that we have to work with local partners. So our partner network is massive. It is extensive. Those are the partners that you see, they are well trained, they come well backed up, well skilled, very confident, and they work with you. They know what to do. We invest in them as well. We invest in you, and there are ways and these resources we are built around so that we are present somehow, whether directly or indirectly. Then there's the self-service deployment guidance, and the self-service deployment guidance, this again, it means there's a flow that you can follow, which is very straightforward, which is easy, which can be done. And we can also assist you remotely. We have teams that sit remotely to assist. As I say, mine is not to keep you for too long. It's just to show you the summary of this, helping you beyond securing the remote work. So once you've figured your remote work, where you support your teams in your new reality, then you start to think about what next you need to do. Then you can work with us to stop attacks with automation and AI. So artificial intelligence becomes very big, especially in terms of catching malware or stopping ransomware in your environment, where you modernize your security operations, where you strengthen your cross-cloud security posture, where you mitigate insider risk. This, again, you look at them after you've done all the three phases, then we become very heavy on security because it means you've allowed quite a bit to be remote, quite a bit to be digital. And I am done, unless you have any questions, so I don't stand in the way of you and your question.